If that's not the dangers of Snowbunny mind control, I don't know what is. Hey yo guys, welcome back to another video. So today we're gonna be talking about sinners. You read the title. I mean, come on, y'all know what this is. All right, I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna kind of split this video into kind of like 3 sections. The first section, I will like start off with no spoilers. But then after that, there'll be like some minor spoilers. Like I won't be giving away like character fates or anything like that, but like some like loose plot beats that you could probably gauge from the trailers, stuff like that will be talked about in that section, and then we'll just hop right into major spoilers after that. Let's just start off this video by just saying 10 out of 10, best movie ever, not gonna cap, right? That's kind of my first talking point. Like I swear to you, before this movie came out, I remember talking about it a few times with like some friends, especially, you know, because like, you know, we like Michael B. Jordan, we like Haley Steinfeld, right? You know, Ryan Coogler, right? We love Ryan Coogler too, you know, love Black Panther, love Creed. But I was not like, for comparison, as excited for this as say like a Dune, like Dune Part 2, right? Or Oppenheimer. Across the Spider-Verse comes to mind as well. There was not like as much excitement like as that, right? Like I've definitely been way more excited for movies before, right? It's not like I wasn't excited, right? It just wasn't like, I wasn't just itching. I didn't start itching, I wouldn't say, until the review embargo really started to come out. And I was like, oh my gosh, how is it still at 100% Rotten Tomatoes, right? Which meant as those reviews were coming in, nobody was really saying anything bad about it. It was still kind of impressive to me. And it did like open my eyes a little bit. I had to like, you know, wait a minute, like, you know, are they cooking here, right? Like I didn't think it was gonna be bad, right? But I wasn't gonna think it was like best thing ever, right? But after seeing it, best thing ever. Like no glaze, I swear, all right? It takes a lot for me to say something like that, right? It's a bold statement for me because my #1 movie of all time has been Pulp Fiction since probably like when I first saw it, and I was old enough to actually fully comprehend what I was seeing. So that probably was like high school, early high school, right? Pulp Fiction has always been my #1 movie of all time, right? But this knocked it down to #2. Recency bias be damned, right? You know, I'm gonna see it like 3 more times. I'm gonna sit on it for a couple of months, but as it stands on my film list right now, it's #1. But I will say that some of the trailers, they weren't bad. Like, I'm not saying the trailers were bad or like dissuade you from watching the movie. I just think like I may have enjoyed my experience more or like, I don't know, been more on the edge of my seat if I didn't like know some things, right? And we'll talk about that in the light spoiler section. But like some trailers gave away some plot points, which I guess you could call predictable, right? Either way, so I guess that's why they put them in the trailer, right? But even then, I just feel like, for example, like my mom, who doesn't really like watch trailers for real for any movie, right? Her going to see this versus me going to see it, I feel like we would both enjoy it, right? But I just feel like maybe she would like, be like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. Might get a little more scared than I would because I'm like, oh yeah, of course they died because of the trailer, you know? So, but yeah, I would just say if you can avoid that, do so, right? But if not, it happens. I still feel like you will enjoy yourself because I definitely enjoyed myself. Last thing I kind of want to talk about, which I already kind of addressed, is the reception. I have not seen a single negative review of this movie, right? And I don't, you know, they exist somewhere. I haven't sought them out, right? That's also a thing, but just from scrolling through Twitter, scrolling on Letterboxd, scrolling on, you know, Instagram, other social medias, even YouTube, I haven't seen any negative reviews. So I'm curious if anybody didn't like it. I am very open to start a dialogue with you as to why, right? And I have a point later on when we get into spoilers that I can say, I think I know what kind of people, like, I don't know, that's probably, maybe I shouldn't say what kind of people. I know the kind of person that might dislike this film. But overall, I'm just happy that this film is getting, like, I'm not like alone in the praise, you know, like there have been some films, especially even with my friend group, where I watch a movie and I'm like, wow, that was really good. And they're like, you know, once everyone who's gonna watch it watches it, I'm hoping that they all have the same opinion, but we'll get more into that later. So minor spoilers ahead, right? I'm just briefly gonna explain why this is my favorite movie of all time, right? So just to break it down for you simply, like I said, Pulp Fiction used to be #1. I'm a Tarantino fanboy, yeah, I'll admit it, right? It's true. But you know, this film was like Pulp Fiction for me, and then it had like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood style ending. The criticism that Once Upon a Time drags into the end. I understand the criticism, right? It's not for everybody. You gotta like be a certain kind of film person, I guess, to enjoy it. But still, take that ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think everyone unanimously agrees is really good, and smack that onto like the end of Pulp Fiction in a way, right? That's what this film was to me. And it's like, so just for me as a Tarantino fanboy, it just answers all my prayers there. The movies that I put in my top 10 films are not the objective best films ever, right? They're more like, these are the films that I would like to see myself make. These are the films that I would like to see myself like get inspired by and things like that. That's how you get into my top 10, right? So like this film checked all the boxes. It had supernatural, right? It had the film noir, right? It wasn't like full blown like superheroes, but it had, you know, some elements of that. It had the action, had the score, right? We'll talk about that in a second, right? It had, you know, the editing, the cinematography, etc., the writing, everything. Everything was there. Everything that makes me love a movie as a movie was there, and it was all on like A, if not S tier to me. The last thing I'll talk about before we just dive into major spoilers, and I guess I'll probably dive into major spoilers like halfway through this section, just because you kind of have to, is the score. Ludwig Göransson. Right, I hope I'm saying that right. That's how I always say it. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But he cooked. 10 out of 10, no notes, no glaze again, right? All right, it's just like, again, at this point, if you're not a Ludwig fan, I don't know what you're doing. You know, like if you have ears, or your ears working from the first Black Panther to what? The Mandalorian to, what are some other iconic ones? Oppenheimer. Did he do Creed? I think he did. Yeah, I think he did do Creed, right? Of course, because it's just Ryan Coogler, right? They're partners, right? They work together. I think they went to college together. So, makes sense, right? Of course, this one is up there, right? Tenet, right? I think he did that one as well. Let me not misquote myself. Let me not listen anymore that I'm not 100% positive that he did. But yeah, it's just like, at this point, he's got to be up there, right? Like, especially like after this. Like, he was up there for me after Oppenheimer, if I'm being honest. So now we're gonna jump into spoilers. So picking back up with the score. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I listened to the whole thing last night when it came out. It came out at like 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is my time zone. And look at that. Can you see the green? That means I saved it to my playlist. Right, you can see pretty much everything got saved, like with save for like 2 or 3 songs. By far, the best one, Why You Here / Before the Sun Went Down, is I think number 1. Right, number 2 would probably either be Hold Up Till Sunrise or Free for a Day. Right, I'd say that they might interchange. Right, it's top 3. But they're all good. They're all good. Like the motifs are very strong in this film, and I love it. Right. But I think I'm accidentally playing one. Let me not get copyright striked here. I don't know. Like again, score's not for everybody. So, but like to me, that's like top 3 most important things when making a movie. Is making sure the music connects and it relates to the film. Number 2, I would say, is probably like the actual just story itself and writing. Right. If your writing is weak, I'm sorry, your film is weak. And then number 1, of course, would be the visual, because that's the whole point. Why are you using a visual medium? Why aren't you doing like an audio book? Why aren't you doing, something like that? So, of course, that has to be up there. And this film had all 3 of those things, like I said at the beginning, on A, if not S tier. There's something that I learned recently about script writing, just because I've been doing a lot of screenwriting and stuff recently, because I'm working on my own stuff like Deadly Sins. Something recently that I learned was who is like your main character, like who you follow, right? Versus who's telling the story, right? Those are 2 different things. And this film, I think, does that amazingly well. I would say this script is very strong. And this is just my opinion. Like all of this is just my opinion. The one we follow definitely has to be Sammy, because it's just like we follow him through the beginning to the end of the film, right? Of course, we do have scenes that still happen when he's not present, but most of the time he's there. And then once we get to the end of the film, with him when he's older and things like that, of course, it just makes it really clear to me that that's who is telling this story or who's remembering all of this. You know, he even says one of his final lines is like, I like wake up every night remembering all of that stuff, and then he's like, despite what happened at night, that was the best day of my life. So that's who I feel is telling the story. Another alternative could be Stack, because he lives to the end, you know, and will live forever until somebody stakes him to the heart, I guess. Sammy is who I'm really feeling, and then a large space, Stack could also be another option. And then an even larger space, Mary. Okay. Now we're getting into the kind of controversial stuff. You saw the title of this video. I titled it that way for a reason. Of course it was the white people, right? Of course. Listen, in horror you have the trope where, of course, the black person dies first. But in this one, you have Mary, who is the one main white person in the cast, is the one who dies first and is the reason pretty much why everything happened. And I was thinking that they might not do that. I thought that they were gonna do the black thing, right? Not even like, because the whole cast is pretty much black, so it's like, of course one of them has to die first, right, or whatever. But I thought it was gonna be Cornbread, right? Because he was like sitting out, like he was like outside of the barn. So like they easily could have like grabbed him or something, and nobody would like, when everybody was like focused on the dance floor, he could have just grabbed him, right? So I thought that was what was gonna happen, because like I knew from the jump that Stack, Cornbread, Mary, and probably some other people were gonna die and become vampires because of the trailers, like I said before, right? Avoid those if you can. Well, at this point, I'm already spoiling it for you, but like that's why I said at the beginning. So I went in knowing all of that, but I just didn't know like what order. So I thought it was gonna be Cornbread, but then when it was Mary, I was just like, of course, right? So overall, let's be a little bit more mature about this before I get into some real Snowbunny stuff. What does this film have to say about race? Like, what did I gather that this film had to say about race? And I don't think it is that, you know, white people bad. I feel like that's kind of like what people are gonna take away somehow, right? Those people are gonna somehow try to pull that from this when they're talking about why they don't like this movie, right? Or like, you know, things like that. Like that's one of the biggest things that I can see some people saying. Like it misses the mark because it's like, of course you're gonna have like the KKK and only the Caucasian people are coming in and killing the black people and blah blah this and blah blah that, right? That's not what it's saying, right? Yes, the main guy who was evil, right, was an Irish white guy, right? Because he was doing the dance and everything, had the accent, right? Yes, the KKK is in this movie, right? And like the best scene ever when, you know, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ending, when Smoke is just airing them out. I don't think it's a race war kind of thing. It doesn't have to be like that. I haven't seen anybody saying that just yet. I have heard some other people share my sentiment where I feel like that is going to be something that people are going to say, you know, as this film gets seen more, because I'm recording this midday Friday, right? So not everyone has really seen it. Like the opening weekend hasn't even finished. So I can see that as a possibility, right? Hopefully it's a select few, if not none. You know, in a perfect world it'd be none, but there's gonna be some. But as a whole, like I said, I don't think that was the intention. It wasn't like white people bad, black people fall victim to them, black people good, right? White people bad. That's not what this film is saying. I don't know. I'm not the person to be like, I shouldn't even be the person who's like saying this and speaking about this, because I don't feel like I'm educated enough to use the right vernacular in order to properly communicate why you shouldn't think that. But I just feel like most of you hopefully are literate enough to understand that this film is bigger than just white people bad, come in, kill black people must fight back, right? You know, that's not, you know, come on, right? If anything, I would say the bigger thing here is the whole, should Sammy be a musician, and why, you know, sometimes with that it's like, maybe you should, you know, stay with your current life versus not. Like, I feel like that is a bigger deal, right? That the film illustrates that very clearly, that's a bigger deal. But alas, there are gonna be some Anyway, that's all I'll say about that because, again, like I said, I don't feel like I'm equipped enough to continue that conversation. But I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that to happen, right? I'm ready for those certain folks to try to tell me that this is not the best movie ever, right? So, yeah.
I mean, the film is actually about the human condition, and I think the vampires represents an escape and also a trap in this movie.
Absolutely, it's like tempting to.
Absolutely.
Stay.
I mean, out of all of the genre characters, you know, zombies, werewolves, vampires most represent temptation and seduction. So we kind of lean into that in the film.
But now it's time to get really serious. Now it's time to talk about the dangers of Snowbunny mind control. So, I have two sections here. The prosecution and the defense. Alright? Now the prosecution. Alright? Like I said, if Mary didn't go out trying to get their money, trying to see what they had, you know, what y'all got for us to spend, you know, because they was gonna let them in if they had some money to spend, right? Like that's at least what it seemed like. Like Smoke was gonna try, or Stack was gonna try to let them in or get them in there so they get some more money. Greedy. Anyway, come on now. She was kind of spurring him on. You know, honestly, this is not the defense, this is the prosecution. She was spurring him on. She was spurring him on, like, come on, Stack, you know I can do it. You know, like this is probably the best play that we should do. Why do I have a deep voice for Haley Steinfeld? Come on, Stack, you know, you need the money. All right, let me do this. How you do it, right? And Stack was like, I don't know, man. You know, maybe, you know. And like then she started to seduce Maz a little, you know, like, come on now. All right, and then she goes out, gets herself murked, right? Comes back in, and then starts seducing bro again, and then kills bro. If that's not the dangers of Snowbunny mind control, I don't know what is. Because if she didn't go out there, like, none of them black folks was going out there. None of them black folks, they was all had their dancing, having a little good time. Wumi Musaku wasn't going out there, wasn't telling Smoke to go out there. Like, they weren't even probably thinking about that. You know, not even the Asian couple was thinking about that. Of course there was a little old Mary who was like, come on, Smoke, come on, Stack, you know, give me your knife, I'm gonna go see what they got, and we'll get them in here, we'll make your money, right? Boom, everything goes to crap. Again, if that's not Snowbunny mind control. You know, one thing I did realize before I holler to the defense, actually this is actually probably a good point for the defense, so I'll save it for that. But it's just like, one more thing that I'll say for the prosecution before the prosecution rests, is that when she killed Stack, right? You know, or seduced Stack, right? I started, bro, he was gonna get a little something spit in bro's mouth, right? He was doing the most, right? Like low key. Anyway, doing all that, and then it's just like, no. Took a chunk out of bro's neck. Took a chunk out of bro's neck. Alright? And then had the nerve to say, when she got aired out by Smoke, pop, 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 she gonna hit him with a, we gonna kill all of you. Man, I was expecting her to drop a hard R. Low key. Would I have given her the pass? That's not relevant. But I was expecting it because I was like, this is such a 180. Who is this woman? Snowbunny mind control. He got Snowbunny mind control. He led to literally everybody in that club dying. Because after that, after he died and everybody freaked out, then they got kicked out, then they all died. How many deaths is on her hands? She's still alive too, guys. She's still alive. She till this day, right? Like as the movie's saying, you know. But she just got, it had to have been at least a good 50 people killed, right? So it's just like, she's guilty. Because if she ain't go out there, if she ain't seduce my man Stack, if she ain't do this, that, whatever, right? None of this would have happened. That's the dangers of Snowbunny mind control. the prosecution rests. Now the defense will give their statements, okay? In her defense, first things first, right? The thing that I was gonna say before, right, which I was like, wait, this helps the defense, was I heard from a friend of a friend that actually in real life, Haley Steinfeld, I think, is like 15% black or something like that, right? And then in the movie, like in the film canon, she is, right? So she's at the very least in canon, she is like, what is it, 15? And what did you say, her grandma was half or something like that, right? Whatever percentage that ends up being, black, right? So it's just like, that's also like, the snow is, the snow got some melanin in it, you know, some showing melanin, I guess I should say, if we want to be technical in it, right? So it's like, that's first things first, okay? So it's not fully Snowbunny mind control, right? Okay. Second thing is, she was looking out for the bro. I can't lie. She was ride or dying. She could have still been putting her life in danger when she was, right? Going out there, right? Like let's just not even say they were vampires. Let's just say they were, because of what? They were KKK members, right, too? Like at least the other two were. She still could have been putting her life in danger going out there. Because they obviously saw this white girl in there with the black people in 1920, whatever, 9, I think, right? Going out there and talking to them, right? Like just them staying out there was already sus as hell, right? But going out there, she still could have like been killed or like whatever, right? A lot of stuff could have like went wrong. So she was ride or dying for real, risking it going out there. I gotta give her props for that at least. You know, like Dangers of Snowbunny mind control be damned. She was still ride or dying, and that's how we like them for real, right? Like no matter what the skin complexion is, we want them to be, you know, thugging it out with us, right? Third thing is, I don't know, that's really all I got. I don't know, because like, it is her fault, you know, when it's just like, nah, wait, one more. It's Haley Steinfeld. She gets a pass. She gets a pass, right? Like, it's just like, come on now. Like, we all understand what kind of time this Shamik Moore was on. Bro went about it a little bit strange. He went out tragic, he did. But at the very least, I can understand, and I feel like most of y'all will understand as well. Like we get it. And you know what? She plays Gwen, right? She's also Gwen. Like that's also the dangers of Snowbunny mind control. She's a Vi, right? That's not like the main arcade Snowbunny mind control, but still, that's a hear me. That's not even a hear me out. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my mind because I'm off topic, but it's just like, chat. You guys are the jury. Do we find Mary/Haley Steinfeld guilty of potential danger of Snowbunny mind control, or do we find her innocent? Are we letting her slide? You know, beyond a reasonable doubt, is she guilty, right? Because that's how you gotta do it legally, right? It has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. I've given you 3 solid doubts, right? I would say 3 solid doubts, right? So beyond a reasonable doubt, can you say with absolute certainty that this is the danger of Snowbunny mind control, or are we letting this slide? The defense rests. Okay, last thing I'll say before I end this video, because it's probably like 5 years long and I'm gonna have an actual terrible time editing this. I've already said that this film is my current #1 movie of not just 2025, right, but of all time, because it had checked all my boxes, you know, we went over this. But just as a filmmaker myself, I just have the feeling that this was, like I've been trying to put it into words, because like I've talked to my mom about it, I've talked to like some of my friends, a good amount of my friends about it already, but I can't put it into the correct verbiage where it's just like, I didn't feel like outclassed, right? Because I feel outclassed pretty much when I watch any major Hollywood production, you know, $100 to $300 million budget, etc., working with A-list actors, right? Of course I'm gonna feel outclassed when comparing it to like my own stuff, right? But this was different. This was more like an eye-opening, not even like a wake-up call, because I feel like that would just mean like I was slacking. But it's just like, it was an eye-opening experience to just be like, let me keep grinding, you know, let me keep going and pushing forward to make something of this caliber that can affect other people the way that this film affected me. Does that make sense? You know, so it's just like, on a serious note, like no Snowbunny BS, right? It's just like, as a creative and as a filmmaker, this is the kind of stuff that you want to strive to do, or at least I feel like you should want to strive to do. That's pretty much the best way I can put it. You know, to strive to create something the way like a film affected you. Like whether that film for you is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, or Sinners, right? Or Pulp Fiction, or whatever, right? Or The Notebook, right? Twilight, God forbid, right? But it's just like, as a creative, I feel like it should be your intent to give that same feeling you had to others, you know? And that's what I came out of this film wanting to do, like, so badly. And do I know exactly how I do that, or what I need to be writing, or how I need to create in order to do that, like, right now? No, not at all. But it's just like, I have that. And this film gave me that, right? And so for that, I'll always be grateful, because again, that's why we go to movies. That's why we take in art. That's why we go see art, is to be, you know, changed, right? Whether that's like to lift our spirits, right, when we're having a bad day, to go cry, I guess, you know, and empathize, or just to escape, you know? And so it's just, yeah, that's really all I have to say. I will see you guys in the next one.